What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a peek over here at the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market. We'll, of course, talk about the Ethereum price chart as well. During our last update, back on Friday of last week, we were looking to see if the price of Ethereum could eclipse $1,300. It has. There's been a lot of action. I've been out of town, but I'm back, and it feels good to be back. We can see that the price of Bitcoin over the last several days has reached as high as $24,200, with a little bit of a pullback happening today. We'll try to take a closer peek at this and see if we can determine what the price action is doing in here or make our best guesses. Last week, we were paying attention to these upper boundary areas right here for Bitcoin to see if it could break out in here. Same thing goes for Ethereum, seeing if it could get above $1,300, which it absolutely did. It's hit as high as $1,630. But the question is that the end of the move, or is this just the beginning of something much bigger? So we'll take a look at a couple of different things that we've been paying attention to for the last couple of weeks and really just look at the charts. There's actually enough content out there right now to be able to make a super long video, including news and everything. And I think it's been so long, we're just going to look at the price action in this video. But there is, of course, one news item that has hit the airwaves within the last 24 hours. And that is that Tesla sells $936 million worth of Bitcoin in the second quarter. So finally, after all this time, Tesla has finally dumped some of their Bitcoin, in essence, 75% of it. Now, Michael Saylor runs the math for us and tells us if you sell 75% of your Bitcoin, you will only have 25% of your Bitcoin left. How insightful. And if we remember correctly, this is where Tesla announced that they had bought Bitcoin right back here in February of 2021. For those who remember as well, this is actually where I did my 65% exit of my Bitcoin. So right when Tesla announced it, that was that's it. I'm out. I'm selling. Thought to be insane from a fundamental analysis perspective. People saying, hey, wait a minute. Institutions are coming. It's validated. Bitcoin is legit. It's getting put on the most impressive company's balance sheet. But it didn't matter to me. The price of Bitcoin was already getting so high from a Fibonacci extension perspective that we were nearing as high as I thought Bitcoin could go, even though the narrative was so great. And of course, we watched retail really pile into Bitcoin during this time and never really was able to get much further than that. So it really wasn't until the price of Bitcoin had already surged really high that Tesla finally came out and said, hey, we've added Bitcoin to our balance sheet. Retail gets excited. Well, what happens? The price of Bitcoin falls really low. Tesla announced that they've sold their Bitcoin. Retail, of course, gets a little worried, right? Hard to draw a conclusion on what it's going to mean for price action, simply from a narrative perspective. But we know when Tesla announced it, well, that was really pretty much the end of the bull run. So right now with Bitcoin's price, for the last week, we've been in a trend coming from 19.5 all the way up to 24.2. Now that Tesla has announced that they've sold their Bitcoin, we've seen this pullback happening in here. Question is this just a pullback to backtest this real kind of breakout area that we just had last week, or really just a couple of days ago? Some of the moving averages we've been paying attention to have been the 50-day moving average, which we can see that Bitcoin was able to break out of for the first time and close week 2 daily candles above it. First time that has happened since back in April. That was also the case for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which also has closed the last 2 days above its 50-day moving average. Hasn't happened since here back in April. And looking at it on the daily time frame from really kind of the candle closes from the resistances and the supports back in here, it's still sitting on top of it. From a structural perspective, one of the things I'm really watching is kind of what happened back here during this time frame and if there's any similarities going on back in here. The thing is that when Bitcoin actually ended up breaking out in here, we could see it rolled all the way back down in here, and that kind of signaled, hey, we're taking another plunge, which means if Bitcoin actually didn't find some support up in here, but actually ended up moving its way back down into these price levels, let's say 20,500, likely wouldn't be a good sign, because what would be the things that would happen? Well, one, we know that we would definitely not be getting through that 50-day moving average. And then at the same time, we wouldn't be getting through the 200-week moving average either. However, we have seen over here on Ethereum that it was able to get back above the 200-week moving average, close the entire week, and have some continuation this week. So that's positive. But for Bitcoin, probably not wanting to see a big fat wick right here on top of the 200-week moving average. and then have prices move back down even lower. I actually did meet up with TXMC Trades over there on Twitter this weekend. He helped me set up this Pine script on here where we can actually include the 200-week moving average regardless of what time frame we're on right now. And we could see this morning's price action. Let me get most of this off the screen so we can see it a little clearer in here. We could see when the 200-week moving average is coming in here. We could see how it's getting rejected in here. The breakout. Tesla says, hey, we've sold our Bitcoin. Well, look where we are right back now here this morning. We're back at that 200-week moving average. It's kind of cool because we could see that on different time frames. That no matter what time frame we're on, we can take a closer look at where the 200-week moving average sits at this exact moment. So today, it's okay, but we'll be watching to see what happens in relation to price action on if this finds support in here, we keep on marching, or if we're going to do something repeating as we saw back in here, right? So it's the kind of thing I'm watching for right now. But there's no doubt some exciting things did happen over the course of the last few days. We've seen some coins really take big moves upward. We saw Ethereum Classic pump nearly 100% in a matter of a couple of days. Now, thing is, look back to the last time something like that happened in here where you pumped 100%, paused itself out, and then rolled over. So it's really kind of trying to see what is the direction of the market right now. And, from my perspective, I look at it as like, the market really going into bigger retraces. How big of a retrace are we going to get in this market? Rather than thinking, hey, the whole thing's just going to flip bullish suddenly, or more so of like how big of a retracement can come in here for like Ethereum Classic, right? So just using this as an example, right? Is that it? Or can we roll our way back up in here? You say something like, hey, this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're rolling back up to wave 4. Then, the real bear market of the crypto market sets in and this goes on for a much longer time. Or do we see something more along the lines of, hey, we're going back in for a full retracement in here. We can get back up and start looking at things like 50%, 61.8%, 702 or 786. And so when I'm looking at these pops happening to the upside, that's kind of the thought process that's going through my mind is on retracement style moves rather than thinking, oh, the market's just flipping into a complete bull market right now. The only way I could flip to start saying, hey, let's start considering that we could potentially be setting any type of new all-time highs or going into some type of big bull run is like if you looked at Ethereum, right? And let's say Ethereum was able to work its way up and it got all the way back up to where we were above where we were back in March and April, and then started to kind of ABC itself in here, then it would be like, okay, well, wait a minute. This is kind of a structure that we've seen that eventually actually whoops its way back up and goes and sets new all-time highs. But as we're in this moment right here, we could see all the things heading up in here. And I think a lot of people who are maybe new to this market, like understanding how it is when we head our way back up. After we have big falls, when we're working our way back up, it's about looking at all the different resistance levels that we've had in here, right? So this was the big breakdown level that we had back in here. Question is, are we going to be able to get through this thing right now? If we're able to get through that right now, then it's like, okay, well, where do Fibonacci retracement levels come in here that would be big areas of resistance? And if you were going to complete a full retracement and this thing like stays in an actual bear market and just goes into retracements, well, then, 50% is good enough to say, hey, go on for a whole nother leg down, or 618 or 702, 786. And so as we're in these moments right in here, it's not about sitting here screaming, we're back in a bull market, because we just don't know yet until we at least get back into some type of retracements. And the thing is, as we get back to each new retracement level or each new resistance level, people are going to be selling to remove some risk from the market. So right now for Ethereum, obviously the thing that's working back towards is, hey, this was actually the breakdown level that happened right back in there, right? That's where we're getting close to, seeing how we're going to handle that. But we could see right in here from a moving average perspective, Ethereum was able to break through its 50-day moving average. We could throw on that 200-week moving average and see it is definitely reclaimed back above that 200-week moving average at this point. Flipping it over to the weekly time frame, still above it, right? Still amazing as can be, that total market cap, that total altcoin market cap, still able to hold in here on top of that 2018 all-time high, and right there pinpoint nailing that 200-week moving average as well. It has still continued to march up. As you all remember, we had 11 consecutive weeks of red. It just so happened to stop right there at that 200-week moving average, and at this point has now been bouncing. So we're working back towards this resistance level back in here, the area where we broke down from. Put it on the daily time frame, see it a little bit better. That's kind of where we're at right now, right? So nothing's really in the clear at this point right now, unless we could still get some more follow through. I think the thing that would get me pretty excited would to see one more push up in here. And then it's welcome to consolidate in here for a little bit longer. But I'd really like to see the underside of this broken supportive area, or at least what appears to be a broken supportive area, be able to get reclaimed. And then some consolidation in here would be fine and exciting. But right now at this point, we could see where we're at. And Mr. Musk and Tesla coming out and announcing that they've sold their Bitcoin right now. Well, we'll have to see how the market kind of responds to that in the short term. So those are the kind of the things we're looking at from a resistance level perspective. But for the bulls, a little bit of optimism out there, right? The thing that we were looking at last week, we were just taking a look at Ethereum in here, structurally what we were looking like down here, and then looking also at Bitcoin and what the bottom of Bitcoin looked like back in 2018. That, hey, if Ethereum can break through here, let's say you can get through $1,300, boy, that's going to look pretty optimistic happening in here for Ethereum. As we could see the last several days, that is what has happened in here. That is also how this did end up playing out in here. We can see the level at which we are starting to consolidate at in here, which is also where it was consolidating at back in here. So far, so good for Ethereum. And if things can start to ramp up, maybe we could see a much bigger move coming in here for Ethereum as well. And that would likely translate into the rest of the market as well. But the thing to take notice of this, if this does happen, what would it be? This would just be a big old fat retracement. But it could still be more aggressive than most people think, right? And if you had something equivalent to that happening in here, right, you'd be looking at, we could easily be seeing the 3,000s and potentially even $4,000 again with that similar style move. But we can't get ahead of ourselves right now. We know Elon just said Tesla dumped their Bitcoin. We know what our Bitcoin structure looks like. I would like to see that 200-week moving average hold in here for Bitcoin, and more particular, at least this whole level hold in here, and that we don't start working down in here. Because if we start working down lower, it starts to paint a little bit of a different picture. But so far, so good. And definitely an interesting picture, an optimistic picture that get painted for Ethereum over the last several days, in which we also saw several other coins pop as well. So things are definitely optimistic. Things are definitely positive. Even though Elon and Tesla have dumped their Bitcoin, from a price perspective, things are still looking good, but we kind of have an idea of when would things start to look bad. That'd really be if Bitcoin started falling back down in here, back into below $21,000, I would think. So far, still good. One thing to keep an eye on this morning is that we just realized the European Central Bank raised its rates by 0.5%, and it was expected to be 0.25%. This is the first rate hike, and this morning, the US dollar currency index had actually fallen pretty substantially down. But when they made this announcement, the DXY suddenly reversed massively after this. So quite volatile action happening over here on the DXY this morning. And like we said, we still don't see anything in the clear just yet over here in the cryptocurrency market, as we're back at the supportive region that was just broken here. So these next few days could really be storytelling, and is there something happening in the world at the exact same time? One of the positive things that happened in the cryptocurrency market is that Tether has now gotten back to $1. We can see we're at $1 right now over here on Coinbase. Is that after 75, 76, 77 days of being depegged from the dollar, suddenly Tether is now back at $1. We can see that here on Coinbase. We could see over here on Binance US getting back up here and kind of bouncing around $1 here for the last day or two. And we can see that over here on Kraken. So it's positive to see that after all this craziness that has happened in the market now, suddenly for some reason also, Tether's getting back to $1, and we'll see if it can stay there for a little while. Kind of go back through history and see times of when Tether kind of got away from $1. Is that during the capitulation phase back in here of 2018, we had this kind of depegging from the dollar happen in here. So we've mentioned that before. This isn't something we haven't seen happen in the past, but with what happened with Luna and with UST, it was incredibly worrying to see something like that happen. And that $17 billion has left Tether. And with how consistent Tether has been over the last year in comparison to the past, how it's kind of been volatile in 2017, 2018, but really here in these last couple of years, it's been much more consistent. To see it really kind of get a depeg got real worrying with UST and Luna. But when the capitulation happened back in 2018 for the cryptocurrency market and Bitcoin plunged from $6,000 down to $3,000, Tether also was depegged from $1 at that time. And then when Tether popped back up and reclaimed it back in here, December 20th of 2018, we could see over here, the bottom of the Bitcoin bear market was already in. So it had depegged during this time period. And then once we got back here, it was able to get back and repeg once again. You can see it lost it again, but really this big capitulation moment in here, the repeg marked the bottom. Hey, is that what we're getting happening back in here as we now get our repeg? I saw Tether post this over here on their Twitter saying July 25th, 2022. It's pretty, vague. It doesn't really tell you what it means. There's a boxing glove hitting a cloud, then a bird and a hole and what that means. But July 25th, 2022, is there some type of announcement happening? Don't know. But as we head into the rest of this week, we got what we were looking for earlier this week for Ethereum with the breakout above 1,300. Hoping for just some sideways consolidation to take place in here before another leg up can happen in here to hopefully bring the rest of the cryptocurrency market along with it. Same goes for Bitcoin in here as it's now kind of back testing this area that it was stuck underneath for so long. We know that the 200-week moving average is right back where the prices are. It's where it was stuck underneath. You can see that's where it's at right now. The weekly candle close obviously doesn't happen for another 3 days. It would be nice to see some price action move it further away above it to really reclaim it. As we talked about last week from a Bitcoin perspective on where it's at right now and if this could even actually be the bottom in here, it is still technically just a retrace of the entire run ever since the C19 sell-off happened back there in March of 2020. The whole run up, the whole pullback, it's right at Fibonacci retracement levels. The same thing goes for the Bitcoin market cap with a pinpoint nail right over there, which also just so happens to be the 2017 all-time high at the exact same time. So you have a 2017 all-time high along with Fibonacci retracement happening in here of the entire run. So definitely supportive levels happening in here. Awesome to see the price be able to break out in here. This could just be a backtest happening in here. We see where the 200-week moving average is coming in. It's our first time after breaking it to get back above it in any way. Still 3 days left for anything to happen in here for a close to come in here. So we'd like to see prices continue to go up higher and also to see that 50-day moving average get broken through and not get broken back down. So, right, take both of these back down. But any type of move up in here, really, really optimistic, which, of course, is the same here for the total altcoin market cap. Get back above here, take out that supportive level. That's optimistic, but right now it has to be considered that this is a resistance level. This is a dangerous level right in here. Get back above it, things get optimistic, and we'll start pointing back to what these things can look like in these crashes. We haven't looked at these in a little while now, comparing how these structures can work in here, right? When we were back in here, it was like, hey, is this just the shorts closing? Is this the fake out rally before you have one more plunge in here? But in order for that to be true, we would need to be working back up in here. Then we can kind of start talking about there might be more coming from this here afterwards. But the big problem we have currently right now is getting through here, and if this is going to be a big problem. So that's where we're at right now. And we'll be watching price action over the next couple of days to hopefully give us that answer. And I would think that would be coming from Bitcoin to give a definitive answer on saying, hey, we're going to hold these levels. We're going to clear out of that 50-day moving average. And we're also going to clear above the 200-week moving average as well. But need to give it a few days to play out to tell a story. Otherwise, volatility on the DXY continues. When we just showed it a few minutes ago, after this big bounce up, hey, it's coming right back down. Looking for direction to emerge in here too. Otherwise, I think the most optimistic thing that emerged in the market over the last couple of days was Ethereum being a little bit of a leader here in the market. And hopefully we are just going to be consolidating in here for a minute before our next leg up, and that it brings the rest of the market with it. But I'm a little relieved to see the Elon story starting to come to a close here in the cryptocurrency market. For me personally, it was always it was weird. I had these prices for Bitcoin picked out a long time ago. I was talking about them when Bitcoin was $5,000, $6,000. That, hey, my area is, 70 grand. That's the whole area where things can come to a close. It wasn't until we finally got up there that, retail really got pushed with the narrative of Elon Musk. That can be coming to a close here at this point. So the story of Elon has just kind of always been weird. And if a lot of you guys remember, there was the B word event that took place right back there. That was with Jack Dorsey, Cathie Wood, and Elon Musk. The irony of that is that was July 21st of 2021. Today is July 21st of 2022. We haven't really had anything from Elon in regards to Bitcoin since back then, right? And the price moved up. Here we go. Elon, Bitcoin, once again, same time of the year, almost to the exact day again. Just strange. But good to see Tether getting repegged in there. We'll see what's coming for them on July 25th. Good to see the Dow Jones also closing days above the 50-day moving average along with Bitcoin. Good to see us at least poking above the 200-week moving average. Good to see Ethereum poking its way up there as well. Hopefully further consolidation followed by another breakout to the upside. Otherwise, the last several days have been positive in the market. Yeah, Elon's gone. Who cares? He provided no positive benefit to Bitcoin when he bought it. Hopefully, this is a mark of the bottom for Bitcoin, as it's now back at that 786 Fibonacci retracement. But we'll keep an eye on things throughout the next couple of days. We'll see how price action plays out in relation to this 50-day moving average and in relation to this 200-week moving average, and if Bitcoin can still maintain those levels as we go into the weekly candle close to reclaim the 200-week moving average. Otherwise, I'll check in with you guys soon. There's been so much news to talk about in the market. I can't include it in this one or else this video would just be ridiculously long, but I'll try to squeeze it in to the next one. Otherwise, I hope you guys have had a great week. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.